It's not just the election issue, but it's a political compromise. Politicians should have done right, but they did wrong. Everything in the banking system is about to change. The small banks are about to be hit with so many regulations that it will put them out of business. Now science has proven that the axis of the earth has started to shift. Not one single life is lost today, but half the nation dies in the next 18 months. Just deadly silence.
Next. Everyone has a story.
In the spiritual world, God is greater than anything that is out there. Nothing is too difficult for him.
Every life has something to share.
The Bible says the Lord is good, and he knoweth those that trust in him. So if you trust in him, he knows you, and he will take care of you.
Forgiving others is not optional. It is necessary to walk in freedom.
From tragedy to triumph.
Your memories will always be of the adventure, not the arrival. So savor the ride.
This is real talk about real topics that will change your life.
Remember, no matter what you're going through, God is always there for you.
So grab a seat and join the conversation. This is Joni Table Talk. Prophecy. It warns, it guides, it reveals truth. One thing it should not do, however, is to bring fear. So today we look at some of the ominous things we've seen come to pass across the globe, as well as what will be in the headlines of tomorrow. And we discover why God reveals such things to us and what that means for you, what it means for me. Joining me around the table is April Simons. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And your pretty mama,
Yeah,
Dodie Osteen's right beside you. And Karen Wheaton all the way from Alabama.
That's right. I'm delighted. I'm excited about this program.
Yeah. Okay, Cindy Murdoch, are you ready?
I'm a sponge.
Okay, and
Soaking it in.
John Paul Jackson is here to talk a little bit about 5 areas of the perfect storm. What is the first one?
First is religion.
Right,
Religion.
Oh, that's a perfect
It's
storm.
part of the perfect, yeah, we can just turn on the news and see that, yeah.
There's been an escalation of the religious aspect of things in the last few months that were not there 5 years ago when the Lord had me prophesy this publicly. As I said earlier, they were going to make a concerted effort to remove the moderate Islamic factions and replace them with radical Islamic factions. Any nation that did not have a radical Islamic leader, the leader would be replaced.
Like Egypt.
Like Egypt, like Libya, now Syria, and it's going to continue to roll to where that every nation that is not radical in its Sharia law outlook, the leaders are going to be removed systematically.
So if we think for a moment, the leadership in America, that we can somehow join hands and be friends with this mentality, it's simply not possible.
It is not going to happen. It is not going to happen. If you read the Quran, I've read an English version, an interpreted version of the Quran that says that the infidels, anybody who does not believe in Muhammad, the Prophet, and Allah, must be eradicated or killed. And so if you believe the Quran, then that is the direction that they're going to force you to go.
Yeah.
And this caliphate that they're working on, for that all the Islamic nations gather together, the next thing they will have after they all gather together is one supreme leader of the caliphate, an Islamic leader of the caliphate.
Somehow, in American thinking, we think somehow we can befriend and we can, hold out a hand, and it's not a true reality at all, is it?
No, it is not a reality, and we're at a time when we're really close to calling evil good and good evil in this nation.
We already
very,
do
very
that.
close.
We already do that. I mean, we're doing that.
It's becoming rampant, though.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between periodically here and there. The abortion issue has always been evil, and others calling it good.
Right.
But now we're rampant. Our eyes have been so blinded as a culture. Now it's becoming a rampant escalation of that.
They always vilify the Christians and anyone who says homosexuality is a sin or that abortion is wrong.
Right.
We're always the evil, weird people.
Right.
I mean, because that is the mentality in
That is the
America.
mentality.
Yeah.
In the perfect storm, it would come to a place where it's very difficult to tell what causes what. Is it the economics that causes religious upheaval? For example, people would say, well, it's the price of food or the joblessness in Egypt that caused the uprising. When the reality is that it was, whatever the excuse is, it was done to replace the leadership of Egypt. And I'm not saying that Mubarak was good, but it is done to replace the leadership of Egypt with a harsher leadership.
It was strategic.
Right, it's strategic.
Okay, Dodie, the second part of a perfect storm.
Politics.
Well, right now we're in that part of that political storm that's taking place, and with the election, the political storm is gaining momentum. But it's not just the election issue. The whole perfect storm had to do with political compromise, where there was politicians should have done right, but they did wrong. There was intrigue behind the scenes. There were deals that were being cut. We just saw the UN ambassador not attend the speech of Netanyahu at the United Nations. How can the UN ambassador not attend the speech of our closest ally in the Middle East? Messages are being sent in subtle ways, and the whole political system has become corrupt. It is a political system, not a system of leaders anymore.
My goodness.
So when people talk about the Illuminati, do you believe that exists in America and around the world?
I don't know if whether I'd call it the Illuminati, but I believe that there are a large group of men who think they can control the world. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's too bad.
Karen, the third perfect part of the storm.
What about war?
Well, again, you don't know whether war causes economic issues or the religious issues, or whether religious issues and economic issues cause the war. They're becoming intermingled. But you're going to see the escalation of war. We've seen the escalation of war spread from Egypt to Libya to Syria. You'll see that spread on to Jordan. You'll even see it spread to Saudi Arabia before it's all said and done. Things will change there. But you'll see Turkey start to rise up and flex its muscles. You're going to see Russia, that I've said for years, is going to start to rise up and flex its muscles. It is doing that right now. But there's another type of warfare that's happening. There's actually on two fronts. There is a cyber war that's going on, and then there's a secondary economic war that is going on to change the world's monetary system.
So it's not just nuclear war. There's also
nuclear
cyber war, which is a huge part of how we run everything today.
Right. And one of the last times I was on the program, we talked about a cyber war that was going to hit the banking system, and that it would be a warning, and then there would be a worse cyber attack later on. There was almost like the first one probed to see what they could get away with, so they'd know how to formulate the second one. Well, just recently, in the last couple of weeks, we saw that first cyber attack. When I was talking with you about this, we talked about the need to have money in the bank in order to cover yourself for at least 2 weeks. So you don't, money out of the bank. So you have money, cash that you can have, because the ATMs won't work. You won't be able to get, you deposit your check, but they can't take the deposit. Or you have it deposited, but they don't know because all the computer systems are shut down. Well, that's the first probe. The second probe is coming. It's not like in a week, so we're not worried about the week. But I urged people, and I still urge people, have funds out of the bank, keep enough money in the bank that you can pay your bills up until that point, but you have to have money outside the bank, cash. And then secondly, I urge people to be able to prove what they've paid for. Because in the next attack, there is going to be some banks that will say you owe money that you've already paid. For example, if you're paying off a car, they're going to say, well, you didn't make your last 3 payments, and you're going to have to prove to them you made your last 3 payments, because their records will be gone. And you will have to prove to them you made your last 3 payments, or they will take your car.
You know, in talking about the war, you have talked about even back a year or so ago that it looked like at some point Israel may bomb Iran.
They are going to hit Iran. They are going to. What they're doing right now is deciding one of 2 ways they're going to hit. Do they expose a weapon that they have, or do they do it with another weapon that is, they have 2 secret weapons. One they don't mind exposing, the second one they don't want to expose. Do they expose the more lethal one, or the one that will do the most damage in the long run? For example, I don't know how much to say of this. If you have an explosive that doesn't destroy so much as it does send tiny shards of electrical wire all over the electrical lines, and through that short out all the generators. Okay, that will take them 6 months to a year to replace those generators. You bought yourself some time, but you haven't solved the nuclear problem, you just put it off. If you detonate an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse bomb, about 100 miles above Iran, and then you destroy all the generators permanently, all the electrical lines permanently, everything permanently. Not one single life is lost today, but half the nation dies in the next 18 months from starvation.
Wow.
Which one do you do? That's what they're working through right now.
Yeah. Okay, the perfect storm. We talked about religion, politics, war. The fourth one, Cindy?
The economy.
The economy. We're on the threshold of a major banking crisis. What he showed me was an issue with Bank of America. I won't tell the whole dream, but there was an issue with Bank of America, and Bank of America shrinking, but now Bank of America has announced that they will lay off 16,000 people by the end of the year. They will lay off another 30,000 next year.
My goodness.
And it will continue to escalate, and Bank of America will be nationalized before it's all said and done. It will be a national bank, like GM has become nationalized in essence, and Bank of America will become nationalized in essence. And so that will change the entire banking system. Everything in the banking system is about to change. You're about to be hit. The small banks are about to be hit with so many regulations, it will put them out of business. So only the major banks will survive.
Isn't that just a step closer to socialism?
It's geared towards socialism. It's not just a step closer. It is taking it towards a socialistic state.
Because when you have the government controlling versus what our founding fathers had.
The government's in
purpose for
charge
America.
instead of the people being in charge.
Geophysical events, the earth is groaning.
The earth is groaning. One of the headlines the Lord showed me is that the North Pole will soon be found in North Russia. And that there is such a move of the magnetic North Pole. The North Pole will soon be found in North Russia. And that will create a whole set of dynamics over who controls what and what airplanes can fly where. I've been saying this for years, and so it's not like I'm saying it right now, but now science has proven that the axis of the earth has started to shift for the first time in millennia.
The Lord showed you something specifically about the Mississippi River.
Yes, I saw a headline that said, "The Great Divide and the New Normal on the Mississippi River." And though you won't be able to get up and down the Mississippi River, he showed me two things. One, that the Mississippi River shipping would not be able to go up and down because of drought, which that happened just in this summer. They had to shut down shipping on the Mississippi. But then he said the greater issue is the Great Divide. The greater issue is the Great Divide, and the new normal on the Mississippi will be that because of an earthquake that happens, they will only be able to go so far up and down the Mississippi. They won't be able to go all the way from north to south on the Mississippi after that.
Well, you don't want to go anywhere. When we come back, John Paul is going to share some additional future headlines the Lord has revealed to him, so stay right there. Foreign conflicts, economic downturns. God continues to issue prophetic warnings and guidance for coming events. So what does tomorrow's headlines hold, and what is God saying through them? Talk a little bit about how the Lord uses headlines to speak to you. It's just something gone on for a while now, hasn't it?
It has. It's gone on for
like you're reading a newspaper.
Actually, decades it's gone on for.
Okay.
Wow.
And I don't talk a lot about that. But the Lord's releasing me to talk more and more about that. And today we're going to be talking about some of the headlines. But I will literally see a newspaper come swirling to me out of the background. It's far, far away. And then it comes to me, and it'll turn up on its side. So I see like the top half of the newspaper. and I read the headline that's on the top half of the newspaper.
That's interesting. You know, we were just celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary in beautiful Hawaii, and we had a wonderful time there, and I met a girl that was from Japan, and I was asking her, you know, she still has family there, what were the effects from the spill, the nuclear spill.
Right.
And she was telling me that there are parts of the country where that happened, where people are suffering serious side effects as a result of that getting into the air.
Right.
One of the headlines that you saw concerned Japan. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. Well, I saw in this particular event, I was actually in Japan. I don't know how to describe that, but I was actually in Japan on a mountainside on the other side of Tokyo. And while I was standing there, I saw a high-speed train go by. I saw a cherry tree right to my right, and I saw this huge volcano in the background that had snow coming down about halfway down the volcano.
A cherry tree, interesting.
Yeah, right. It was a cherry tree. And so, or the cherry blossoms or cherry tree. Yeah. And I saw a plume come out the side of this volcano, and then I saw a short time later a second plume come out the side of the volcano, and a short time later I saw a third steam or plume come out the side of the volcano, and then it exploded. And it was way worse than Mount St. Helens. It was.
Goodness.
And I was hearing all the traffic, the noise, the people, shopping, the business, everything. I could hear all the noise of all the people. And then I watched incredible steam come and almost melt certain signs begin to melt right before my eyes. And steam began to roll through the town, and instead of it being noisy, it came to just in moments, it came to a muffled hush, just deadly silence. And then everything disappears, and out of the background comes this newspaper swirling like this, turning. It gets to me, it comes up on end, and it says, volcano erupts near Tokyo, 7 million dead, another million missing.
Oh, my.
I know that is going to happen. And at the time, Mount Fuji was not just a dormant volcano, it was a dead volcano. It was a dead volcano. Today, it's now awakened.
Oh my goodness.
It's now awakened because of the tsunami and nuclear and earthquake issue in northern Japan. Somehow, apparently, whatever happened with that has awakened the mountains around Tokyo and Mount Fuji.
And the sleeping giant has awakened.
The sleeping giant. And one plume has come out of it.
Wow.
One plume has come out the side, a steam vent has come out the side of Mount Fuji.
Now, what's interesting about the nation of Japan?
Well, the nation of Japan, and in this, I heard the Lord's voice say, Japan is the only nation that in its foundation made no provision for the one true God.
Oh.
Japan
made no provision.
Made no provision for the one true God.
Okay.
Washington, D.C. riots.
Washington, D.C. riots is very, very concerning to me because I saw a huge number of people, and I saw the streets of the Capitol. Washington, D.C. just doesn't have Pennsylvania Avenue and Capitol buildings and monuments, but it has housing and apartments everywhere.
Right.
And I saw people in the streets, and they were spray painting our monuments. On the heels of that headline, I saw a secondary headline that said, Washington Monument tilts further, repairs to other structures put on hold. So something happened that the Washington Monument began to tilt.
Oh my goodness.
And it will be obviously a noticeable tilt, and there will be repairs that we put on hold to other monuments. Again, this is part of God speaking to our nation. It says, it's like the enemy has access to the degree we agree with the enemy. When we don't agree, when we agree with God, then God will take control over us. But if we agree with the enemy, then it gives Satan the right or the authority or permission, might be a better way of saying it, to come after us. And we are agreeing. We have a lot in common with darkness right now.
My goodness.
Wow.
We have a lot in common with some of the values and the lifestyles that we are espousing here in America. And
Yes.
and we are not standing up for truth.
No.
In many of our churches
Right.
are even adopting belief systems that are contrary to the Word of God. That is very dangerous.
It's
for
very,
America.
very
So true.
dangerous, and it allows the enemy access to us.
Right.
Whatever you agree with Satan on allows him access to you.
Wow.
Where is the Navy now?
That was an interesting headline because something happened to America from the Gulf of Mexico and the eastern coast, and the Navy should have caught it. The patrol of our ship should have caught that, but they weren't there to catch it. They were somewhere else.
Wow. What about martial law being extended 30 more days?
The riots in America became so severe that they literally had a national martial law declared in order to stop the riots. Many people thought they were race riots, but they were really economic riots, but had to do some with race. But it was economically instigated riots that were really devastating. And I saw another interesting headline after that, and it said, "The new Robin Hood, flash mob looting in rich neighborhoods." So there was like flash mob looting is where flash mobs are where they text people, and a large number are on their text, and they would show up at a certain location and do certain things. Like there's been flash mob dances, and so this is a flash mob looting. They would say on a certain day at a certain time, we're going to show up at a certain rich neighborhood, and what's theirs is ours. So they robbed the large houses of what they had and take their belongings and just destroy the house. They destroy the house.
How about the ocean temperature spreading?
There was this was unusual, is that there was a sudden jump in the ocean temperatures, and they couldn't figure out what was causing it, whether it was a vent in the bottom of the ocean that had opened up because of an earthquake, a fissure, or what was causing, but there was a sudden surge in the temperature of the ocean, and millions and millions and millions of fish were dying, seals were dying, whales were dying, a large number of sea life was dying and just floating on the surface of the water.
Oh my goodness.
It was in the Pacific Ocean.
Here's another headline the Lord showed you. Too big to fail fails.
Too big to fail fails, the banks. There's a too big to fail bank that's going to fail, and the government will take it over. I believe that's probably Bank of America. As I was talking earlier, it will be nationalized.
Israel says if Jerusalem hit, Mecca hit within minutes.
Right. So Jerusalem is going to say, as tensions escalate, that if a missile comes towards Jerusalem, before it hits, a missile will be on its way to Mecca. And they will use that as a deterrent to retaliation in Jerusalem. But
So
Tel
and
Aviv
Mecca
will be
is
hit.
in
Saudi Arabia.
Oh my goodness.
Right, Saudi Arabia.
Which
is where they're having the Hajj right now. I believe it's right now, or pretty soon they'll have
which is
the
like
Hajj.
the holy city of Islam.
Right.
Right. Amazing, amazing. Well, let's see, which ones did we miss here?
This is a good one.
Let me
New
see.
York, New Year's.
New Year's terror, in with the old, out with the new. New Year's terror.
Yeah, it was a play. It was almost like we thought terrorism was over, but there was a terrorist attack on New Year's Eve or New Year's, and it's like the old terrorist now happened again. There was something that happened in New York City on a New Year's Eve, and it was in with the old, out with the new. Instead of in with the new, out with the old. But this headline had that flipped. It was in with the old,
And so,
out with the new.
Any time frame, or are these just random? You really don't know exactly.
I don't know.
Times and seasons is all
I
you
don't know exactly on that one. I don't know. Yeah, I just see the headline. Sometimes it'll have a year or a date. Sometimes I have a date, but I don't see a year.
We're going to pray that you'll get the date and the year.
Well, you know, for those that are listening and they're saying, well, you hear these headlines and I'm really fearful about this, and the Lord doesn't want you to be afraid, number one, because He always reveals these things to His prophets first. And basically the prophet reveals it to the body of Christ. And so we can be secure in that knowledge and know that God is saying, don't be moved by this, but I want you to be prepared.
And that's what He told Jeremiah. He said, Jeremiah 10, he said, don't be amazed at the signs in heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. We're to be prepared for them. He's having me announce these things so that we can be prepared for issues, so we can be a solution to people's needs. There's going to be a lot of needs, and it's going to bring a lot of people to the Lord. If we become the solution, if we become part of the problem, then we have become nothing more than what they are. We're dismayed by the signs versus being a solution, and people wanting what we have.
So the last question, that's not scripted. So for people who are watching, I know you can't set days, times, and all that. We can definitely see the seasons. Jesus is coming again.
Yes,
we
He is.
know that.
Yes.
But as far as right now, when do you see the real type of calamity that will shut down so many infrastructures in America? Are we years away from that? Are we a decade away from it? I mean, any idea?
Next spring there will be a bank shaking, and there will be a cyber shaking within 18 months, and there will be. It won't be long. I can't tell you the date. I just say it won't be long till we see terrorists in stadiums like the NFL. And terrorist activity in stadiums, terrorist activity in schools, terrorist activities in malls, and creating a jihad of fear.
Because one of the headlines you saw that we didn't get to, NFL postpones all games till answers found.
Till answers found, exactly.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we're out of time, and we certainly have something to pray about, don't we, church? It's time for us to pray. It's time for us to stand up for those righteous things, not things that are right, but things that are righteous in the sight of the Lord. I want to thank John Paul Jackson for joining us and for sharing. I really do appreciate you coming and sharing today with all those that are listening. You can visit him online at streamsministries.com. And again, if you're facing an uncertain situation or difficult circumstance in your life, we're here to pray with you. We have prayer partners that are standing by. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, ladies. Hasn't this been wonderful? I could sit here for another hour. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for today.
This has been a Daystar Television production.